In or out, the Arkansas Razorbacks squarely on the bubble and a pivotal 4-game stretch upcoming. That is the question that faces John Calipari and this Hogs basketball team, and one that we will discuss. What does Arkansas need to do down the stretch, sitting at 16-11 and 5-9 in conference play? Hello, I'm Chris Phillips. He is Dave Shumate, lead basketball analyst here at SEC Unfiltered. Again, guys, as always, make sure you like, subscribe, turn on notifications, check us out via podcast, wherever you get your podcasts. You can also find us across all social media platforms, as well as our website, secunfiltered.com. This segment brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. Visit FanDuel.com/SECU to join today and get started with $150 in bonus bets when you win your first $5 bet. Once again, that's FanDuel.com/SECU to get $150 in bonus bets today. Once again, we're talking the Arkansas Razorbacks, and for a lot of teams right now, the big question is this: are you in or are you out? And what work do you have left to do? And certainly Arkansas is one of those squarely on the bubble. We've seen projections, Dave, at this point. First 4 in, next 4 out, play-in game in Dayton potentially. The Arkansas Razorbacks sit right now. And by the way, coming off a huge win over the weekend against the Missouri Tigers, they are now 16-11 overall, 5-9 in conference play. The next 4 games shape up like this, Dave. Texas at home on Wednesday night, at South Carolina, at Vanderbilt, and then they will close out the regular season against Mississippi State. Once again, guys, like I mentioned, we're discussing this, breaking it all down. I am Chris Phillips. Dave Shumate, lead basketball analyst here at SEC Unfiltered, joins me. Dave, what's going on, man? Appreciate you taking the time. I'm excited to talk about this because Arkansas is one of those fascinating bubble teams as we move into the month of March and come into the last few weeks of the regular season.
Yeah, no, I'm fired up about it. I mean, first of all, we just get to talk about who's in, who's out. It gets a little exhausting talking about, hey, I feel like who wins the league is kind of one of like the 4th or 5th best storyline as we go through these final 2 weeks, like you mentioned, Chris, with 4 games left. I think we feel good about Auburn, but we have these group of teams, and I'm going to slide Vanderbilt into that group that I think it's going to be that 10th team that you can pencil in still. I mean, you can write it pretty hard. Just make sure you got an eraser, but I feel pretty good about Vanderbilt getting in. It's those 4 other teams. It's Arkansas, it's Georgia, it's Oklahoma, and it's Texas right there. We're speaking of the Razorbacks. Not the season we anticipated. Both me and you higher on them. I had them finishing second. You had them winning the league. Again, not those expectations, but now they are playing a lot better basketball. I mean, they've been playing a lot better basketball really since probably that Kentucky game. Since we turned the calendar month to February, it would be a good point. I mean, they've been in the month of February 1, 2, 3, 4 and 3. I mean, the losses to Alabama, Texas A&M, and Auburn. And in a game against Auburn, they had a chance in the last 4 minutes. So they are playing like an NCAA tournament team right now. I think when you watch Arkansas, you're like, they keep this up. And again, we talked a little bit off air, Chris. I think that Texas game, it's kind of a loser leave town type of game, it feels like, especially for Texas this week. I mean, they got another game on Saturday. It's massive. So, but really specifically locking into tomorrow night's game, I mean, it's as loser leave town as you can imagine. But Arkansas still in the thick of things here. I do think, in my opinion, though, CP, it would be in their best interest to feel comfortable heading into Nashville with an NCAA tournament bid if they could go 3-1 in this 4-game stretch. You can get 2 at home, 2 at home on the road, open it up with Texas tomorrow at home, finish the year with Mississippi State, as you mentioned, Chris, to end the year. So if you can go 1-1 at home, 1-1 on the road, you're going to still win somewhere else. I feel like 2-2, you could work your way back in it because you're going to have – I mean, Chris, we see it. We talk about it all the time in Nashville. There's going to be plenty of opportunities to maybe not for some of these teams that are in the tournament already to move seed lines. I mean, we saw it last year. Auburn won the SEC tournament, didn't move a seed line. But these teams can play themselves in or out. Arkansas is going to have some opportunities. But I think 3-1, that 3-game stretch, they could get – if they could get to that spot, I would feel good about where the Razorbacks stand right now. Get to that 7-win conference mark.
You mentioned, too, Dave, playing better basketball in the month of February, really since the Kentucky game. I mean, even the 3 losses, you lose to Bama by 4, you lose at Texas A&M by 8, you lose at Auburn by 7. So they've been in all those games, really competitive games. Again, obviously you beat LSU, you beat Kentucky to start the month, then LSU, then obviously over the weekend you beat the Missouri Tigers, which was a huge win on the home floor when you think about how good Mizzou has been. But yeah, I would agree with you, Dave. It's funny. I couldn't help but think we're getting to a point now where, for so much of the season, I think it's been really fun to say, hey, 13 SEC teams are going to get in, or maybe even 12. We're now coming down the stretch where it's like, it's starting the picture's starting to clear up a little bit. It's probably going to be way closer and probably going to be that 11 number. And there's a few teams that feels like fighting for that number. I mean, you got Arkansas 39th in net right now. Georgia's right behind them at 40th. These games, again, Arkansas, Texas, Arkansas, Vandy, they're going to go a long way in determining what the bubble looks like, who's in, who's out. So I would agree with you. I think they need to win the next 3 in a row. I think Texas at home, I mean, it's like you mentioned, the Longhorns just losing to South Carolina. Whoever loses that one, I'd probably feel pretty confident in betting they don't get in. You got to win at South Carolina. I know they just beat Texas, but that would be a horrific loss. And then at Vanderbilt, Memorial Magic, I mean, I'm looking at the schedule, Dave. That's going to be
a tough game.
That's a 10 o'clock Eastern time tip-off, by the way, for those that are curious. And then obviously your finale. I mean, at home, Bud Walton will be shaken against Mississippi State, but I think they need to win these next 3 in a row, especially when you think about the fact they're fighting against teams that could, take their spot in the tournament.
Yeah, and I think the thing it's saving Arkansas here too, Chris. I mean, looking at their quad 1, quad 2, quad 3 wins here. I mean, they're 11-0 in the quad 3 and 4 games, so they have no bad losses. And I think being in this league helps that this year. I mean, they're 4-9 in quad 1. That's not awesome, but quad 2 they're 1-2. So that's really helping them. Strength of schedule according to the Nets 14th, and then net wins above the bubble. Teams they've beaten is 42nd. So. They've set themselves up well. It's just getting in that early hole back in. I mean, really, we're talking about it back in January when you look at that schedule. And what was that? Those 5 straight losses they had starting on January 4th.
I mean, they were 1-6 in conference play before beating Kentucky.
Yeah, started off 0-5. And that Georgia game they easily could have lost. Georgia kind of gave it to them. So no, I mean you're right. It's amazing they dug themselves out. And even in their losses against these good teams, they've had opportunities at the end. Alabama, they came back from 18, had a chance at home. Auburn, they were stride for stride with them. And then A&M, I thought you played well, but it's a tough place to go play at Reed Arena. So, again, but that's not hurting them in this perspective. You're right, CP. I think you're right. The group of teams, if Arkansas is a tournament team, you're right. They should go 3-1 in this 4-game stretch. And I know they already have 5 conference wins, so 2-2 would get them to 7-11, which I still think because the bubble's so bad this year. It's so bad. Like in the other conferences, not just the SEC. It's like, at 2-2, they go win a game in Nashville. Arkansas probably still goes and gets in. But to feel really good heading into the conference tournament, 3-1, let's be honest, CP. I mean, they're going to be favored to win in every game. Potentially they're 3 out of the 4. So, I mean, you should be depending on Mississippi State, the last game of the year. They should go 3-1 if you're an NCAA tournament team. That's just my 2 cents on it. I think that would get you in. I feel like you're a lock heading into Nashville if they do finish it off 3-1.
Well, and Dave, you called it at the start of the season, start of the conference season at least. Getting to 8-10 was probably going to be where you were going to need to be in. They're 5-9 with 4 left. They can get there, and I think they need to get there to lock it in. 7-11. It's
7-11 would get some teams into the club, but you're not getting VIP access.
And you probably to feel good need to win a few in Nashville, like you mentioned. But I think if you're Arkansas, man, you really don't want it to come down to the conference tournament. I just, like you mentioned, it's how much weight do they really put into it.
Oh, man. Think about that sad Wednesday we all used to call it, where it used to just be 2 games, like where it used to be what the bottom 4 teams would play 2 games to move on. Now we have 4 games since we've added Texas and Oklahoma. You could be I saw someone mention if Arkansas right now, if the SEC tournament started this week, you'd have Arkansas would have finished in the 11th spot. I think you'd have Arkansas and Georgia playing on Wednesday night. And that literally is like an elimination. It's like, losers not making the NCAA tournament. So you can have a lot of those between like the teams like Oklahoma, Arkansas, Georgia, Vandy, Texas. I mean, all these teams we are in the bubble. So Wednesday will be a lot more fun than we're accustomed to seeing, obviously, because Oklahoma and Texas bringing some juice. But there should be a lot more riding on the line than just, hey, who gets to go play the 6 seed tomorrow and who gets to go play? I mean, who usually is? It's the other 5 seed.
And Dave, I want to ask you this, looking way too far ahead, and let's just assume that Arkansas finds a way to go 3-1 of these last 4. We're going to start having these conversations in a few weeks. Bracket busters. Do you think Arkansas could be a bracket buster? Like, do they have the makings in your mind to make some unexpected or just unprecedented run in the tournament? Like you said, this team has played better This team has pieces. The hype was there for a reason. And, oh, by the way, they've got John Calipari, which if you're a Kentucky fan watching this, you may scoff because of his lack of success of late, if you will, in the big dance. But do you look at this Arkansas team and feel like, hey, if they get in, emphasis on if, but if they get in, watch out for the Hogs?
Yeah, Arkansas screams to me that team is going to be playing. If they go 2-2, 3-1, and they go out early in the SEC tournament, they'll probably be playing in that play-in game or Tuesday, Wednesday night in Dayton, like the play-in for an 11 seed potentially. And we see it every year, CP, or at least 4 out of every 5 years. One of those teams who gets in the play-in game and plays that first game, and we see it every year, CP, getting those first game jitters out. I mean, I really do think that's a thing. Like, hey, guys, we're in the NCAA tournament. Like, I think that hits you your first game. Well, those play-in teams, we see it every year, they go win 2 or 3 games because they go upset teams. And I don't think it's all because of they're getting the first game jitter out. But I do think they have a head start because, like, we've already played. We're about to go play the 6th seed. And, like, you know what? It's a very winnable game. You know, they could be a little nervous rolling in here. And the 6 seeds, according to our guy JBR Bracketology right now, are Maryland, UCLA, Kansas, and Louisville. Arkansas could certainly beat any of those teams. I mean, they beat Kansas in an exhibition early in the season, again, a long time ago. But still, those teams are very beatable. Yeah, I could see Arkansas winning a game or 2 in the NCAA tournament. Do I think they make the second weekend? Maybe with the right breaks. I don't think much further than that because, again, they are – he only brought in 9 players initially to this roster. They're already banged up. They're down to about 7 or 8 guys with Boogie Flam being out with a hand injury. But I think that's made them better. It's made Nelly Davis get a little bit more comfortable in what he's capable of doing. So I think blessing in disguise, you never want anybody hurt, but at the same time, as an extra body you could be playing, and I think that would just catch up to your tournament. But to answer your question, Chris, yeah, I think they could win 2, 3 games potentially in the tournament. Maybe just get to that Sweet 16. That's the ceiling. Floor is definitely losing in the first round. But like I mentioned, we see one of these playing teams get hot every year and go win 2 or 3 games.
16-11 overall, 5-9 in conference play with Texas at South Carolina at Vandy and Mississippi State looming for the Hogs. Guys, we ask you, what do you think Arkansas needs to do? And simply put, will they make the NCAA tournament as John Calipari's squad fight for their postseason lives? Once again, thank you all so much for tuning in, guys. I do want to shout out our friends over at FanDuel because, as always, we are brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. When the game tips off, the NBA action is just beginning on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because FanDuel is your home for NBA live betting. So even if you miss the first few minutes of the game or you want to bet on a fourth quarter comeback, you can make your picks from the first whistle until the final buzzer. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. However you want to play, now is the perfect time to join. New FanDuel customers get started with $150 in bonus bets. If your first $5 bet wins, just visit FanDuel.com/SECU to join today. That's FanDuel.com/SECU for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA. Must be 21 and up and present in select states. For Kansas, in affiliation with Kansas Star Casino, or 18 and up and present in D.C. First online real money wager only, $5 first deposit required. Bonus issued is non-withdrawable bonus bets, which expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit fanduel.com/RG. Call 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut or visit mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland. Hope is here. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts, or call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York. Once again, in or out, that's the question for the Hogs. What do they have to do to make the NCAA tournament, and will they get it done? That's yet to be determined. Once again, guys, thank you all so much for tuning in. I am Chris Phillips. He is lead basketball analyst here at SEC Unfiltered Dave Shumate. Make sure you like, subscribe, turn on notifications. Check us out via podcast, wherever you get your podcast. You can also find us across all social media platforms, as well as our website, secunfiltered.com. For Dave Shumate, once again, I'm Chris Phillips. Thank you all so much for tuning in, and we will catch you on the other side.